Bro, Clinton could do the funniest thing, okay? Take it all down, baby. Come on. Mutually assured pedophilia destruction. Just drop it, dude. Just get up there and say it all. Be like, yeah, that's right. Trump was there with me on Lolita Express. Oh my God. The entire executive and former leadership just like takes itself out due to their Jeffrey Epstein connections. Oh my Lord. Breaking news, House Oversight Chair has issued subpoenas for the Epstein files and is deposing the Clintons. That's right. It's happening. Ugh.
Hi, I'm Diane Macedo. We have breaking news. The House Oversight Committee is issuing a subpoena to the Justice Department for the Jeffrey Epstein files. The Republican-controlled committee is also issuing subpoenas for former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hilary Clinton, and 8 former top law enforcement officials. Committee Chairman James Comer says he wants the Justice Department to turn over the, quote, full, complete, unredacted Epstein files by August 19th, setting up a potential standoff between Congress and the Trump administration. Let's bring in Justice Department reporter Alex Mallon for more. Alex, what are they hoping to get from these depositions, and what happens if these people don't comply?
Well, what they're hoping to get is what this administration originally promised it would release, and then obviously during the early July days backtracked like from that controversial memo that they issued saying that they were not going to release any more files. This is basically Congress taking the driver's seat and saying that we are going to demand these files. They're asking the administration to respond by August 19th. They've also issued a wave of subpoenas for officials like former attorneys general dating back to the Bush administration, and also you just mentioned former President Bill Clinton as well as Hillary Clinton. That could also set up a potential interesting legal fight because it's really abnormal for former presidents to ever appear for testimony before Congress. They could argue there are some significant separations of powers concerns there. But obviously what the Congress is seeking is information related to Jeffrey Epstein's activities as well as Ghislaine Maxwell's activities and the abuse of underage girls, and all of these records that would relate to federal investigations into his conduct.
Alex, how significant is it that these subpoenas are being issued by a Republican-controlled committee?
Well, I mean, this release also notes that this was actually done by unanimous voice vote. You had support from Democrats who see this right now as a really bruising political fight for this administration that has caused a lot of consternation among Trump's most devoted MAGA supporters. I mean, this is something that they really see.
Bro, Trump could do the funniest thing, okay? Bill Clinton could do the funniest thing. I'm just saying. Take it all down, baby. Come on. Come on. Mutually assured pedophilia destruction. Just drop it, dude. Just get up there and say it all. Be like, yeah, that's right. Trump was there with me on Lolita Express. Hell yes. Oh my God. I mean, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But man, it would be sweet, dude. Oh my God. The entire executive and former leadership just like takes itself out due to their Jeffrey Epstein connections. Oh my Lord. That would be, Trump supporters wouldn't believe the Trump accusations and only hyper-focus on Clinton? I don't know. I mean, you're right. That's the red meat. But the reason why I don't think Trump has touched that red meat is because of the potential pushback. And as I said before, because like I told you already that eventually they have to give their base of support. They have to give the MAGA people something, right? They have to give the MAGA people something. And if it's just Hillary and Bill Clinton, there are a lot of people who are going to be satisfied with that for sure. Okay. And there is plenty of evidence for Bill and Hillary's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. They're probably the most high profile people that Americans care about. But I just don't think that you can take out Bill and Hillary Clinton like that without repercussions. Just say Billary, dude. I don't have time for this. True. Billary.
as they have the administration currently on its heels on an issue that we haven't really seen before, like throughout this entire administration. They've been able to kind of...
Yeah, they're the load-bearing, potential alleged pedophiles that hold this structure together.
Shirk or escape any scrutiny. So anytime that they can get Republican partnership in demanding this, they're going to take advantage of that. I think that what remains now is the question is, how will the Justice Department respond? They are...
What the hell is a cum dance, dude? Maybe use a different phrase than load-bearing pedophile. I mean, but that's what it is.
Very typical to really be protective over their investigative holdings. This will be something that we could see result in a really interesting court fight with a Republican administration opposing and actively trying to fight against this effort by a Republican Congress.
All right, Alex Mellon, thank you.
We got new information on the latest back and forth over the files related to convicted sex traffickers Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has issued a slew of deposition subpoenas.
What are the actual allegations against Hilary? I never really knew that part. Like, it's obvious Bill because of his past. But is the idea that Hilary was also molesting teenage girls? No, but Hillary went to the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico a bunch. So, like, Hillary's connection to Jeffrey Epstein is it runs deeper than I don't know, like Noam Chomsky or some shit.
From multiple people, including the Department of Justice, former President Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen following this development from Washington. So walk us through this, Jake.
And also the Clinton Foundation with Ghislaine Maxwell, and Ghislaine Maxwell being a guest of honor at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Like, the Clintons are insanely connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but Hillary Clinton's connections directly to Ghislaine Maxwell run deeper. Like, I don't know if Hillary Clinton was like doing pedophilia, right? I mean, if you ask me about Bill, well, you know.
Well, that's right. While the House is out, Reed, because of a different legislation relating to a potential floor-wide vote of potentially forcing the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, James Comer, who leads the House Oversight Committee, and Democrats who are on that committee have not stopped pushing for more information coming from...
Do you think that Cuomo's are connected? Yes. I know that they are through Ghislaine as well.
People in the government, but people who have covered and worked on these investigations going back 2 or 3 presidential administrations. We're talking former Attorney Generals William Barr and Jeff Sessions. We're talking about former FBI directors, Merrick Garland, who was the Attorney General under the Biden administration, in addition to obviously former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former First Lady Hillary Clinton, and former FBI Director James Comey, among many others. This is in an attempt to potentially bring out new information, but the bigger takeaway here is that the House Oversight Committee is actually going after, and again it's led by Republicans, is going after Trump's Department of Justice to get access to any and all potential conversations that were had under President Biden's watch between the Department of Justice and the White House relating to Jeffrey Epstein, but also they're going after all the files that are potentially in the possession of the Department of Justice to independently get access to those, to sort through them, to potentially wean out other information that the Department of Justice has not put out yet. It's another big step in Congress's now fight to force some transparency after the Trump administration, again, Reed, we've covered this for weeks, has promised some and then kind of walked that back.
And you say all of the files, which is interesting, but is there any discussion in Washington, any question about why specific people have been named? You went through them. I'm especially interested in 2 names, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State, and before that, Senator Hillary Clinton.
Well, we know that, former President Clinton, to be clear to our audience, was on those flight logs and has been associated with Epstein and his associates for a number of years. That would certainly be the reason number 1. But whether you actually get to bringing him in front of this committee is a totally different question, in which, at least for Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton, it's more of an act of political move. Because very likely, Reed, former President Clinton would have to voluntarily go before this committee to offer new information. We've seen presidents before try to fight these out, going back to even the Truman administration fighting against, the Red Scare when he was accused of that, or President Trump. Think about 2022 when that House investigative panel was going after him for his actions on January 6th. President Trump sued, claiming that he had the separation of powers and the ability to not go before this committee, and eventually the committee kind of dropped that request. So it depends on what former President Clinton wants to offer here. But again, for some of these other people who are now private citizens and out of politics, it's certainly possible that they might come in and want to talk, and it's certainly possible that they point back to the Department of Justice, who's in charge now, and say, listen, you're going to have to go to them to get more information about what you're seeking here, because they, at least are, as of now, are in possession of all of these files.
Well, Jake, you rightly said we've been covering it for weeks. I'm going to catch that ball and toss it right back to you, because I have a feeling you'll be covering this for weeks still ahead. Good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Trump says of migrant farm laborers. Let's take a look at the incredible take. The difference between Batya Unger Sargon, who is one of the worst defenders of the administration, who tries to do this populist right-wing thing, but obviously fails to do so, says the difference between right-wing populism and left-wing populism lies in how you view labor. Trump views it as inherently dignified and worth protecting, while the left-wing populists view it as humiliating and the job of illegal immigrants. Immigration is always the tell. Yeah, totally. That's what right-wingers talk about all the time, how dignified labor is.
Let our farmers not have anybody, these people, you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said,
the Mexican, he's got a natural predisposition to working working the soil. A natural predisposition. It's genetics, folks. It's in their blood. That's crazy. That's a crazy take.
what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting.
Like a racehorse? What are you saying? If they get a bad back, they die? Bro, is this what the is this what the farm owners, like capital owners, are talking about behind closed doors? That is crazy. That is crazy. Straight up talking about human beings like they are literal cattle. How is it any different than the way that slavers talked about black people, dude? Jesus Christ.
Isn't it? You know, these are very, you know, in many ways, they're very, very special people. I can't let our farm.
By the way, he's saying this on Squawk Box, dude. Like, Donald Trump is doing race realism about Mexican genes on CNBC. Like, this isn't even the Sean Hannity special. It would probably better serve him if he was doing this, like, race realism nonsense on there, but he's on the financial side where you're supposed to be a little bit more normal, you know? You're supposed to soothe the fears of the market watchers. Incredible. Sharp as ever. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is something he would have said in his first term, too. Let's be real. He would have said this. I mean, this is like the average American doesn't say it out loud, but they kind of, they're in the periphery of this kind of belief system. Like, Jews are magic money people. Trump literally believes that, says it all the time. Like, he is that kind of guy for sure. Like, there are a lot of people who believe this without like realizing what this actually, without realizing what that entails. Okay. Like, if you were to be like, dude, this is literally race realism. This is what like the Nazis believed, right? They'll go, whoa, chill out. That's not me at all. That's not me. That's crazy. but like it's certainly in the same it's certainly on the same spectrum. When will you reject your whiteness? Never. I think the counter to this isn't to just like simply be like, I mean, depending on which group you're in, depending on like what kind of environment you're in, the best counter to this isn't to just be like, this is Nazi shit. The best counter to this is like, it doesn't matter what a person's background is, dude. Like if they went through the same developmentary process, like their outcomes would be quite similar to one another. There is no like genetic predeterminist issue here. It's just treat people like people. There is no natural inclination. The reason why a lot of undocumented migrant workers are really hard workers is because of their material conditions, their material circumstances. The reason why they work super hard is because they just have much less. And that is the process that we have designed. We keep them in this legal limbo in terms of their second-class citizenship status so that we can keep working them into the goddamn ground. That's it. Yeah. And the reasons as to why they migrate to the United States of America is because of American intervention in most circumstances as well. There's a bombshell New York Times article, by the way, showing a camera in Epstein's bathroom and so much more. We'll obviously get to that, and then we'll do the Israel stuff afterwards.
Breaking news sources tell CNN that the Trump administration is considering whether to make an audio recording and transcripts of Ghislaine Maxwell's interview with the Justice Department public. CNN's Elena Treen is back with us from the White House. What can you tell us, Elena?
Yeah, that's right. Well, first I would point out, Pamela, that it wasn't previously known that they actually had made an audio recording of the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, which we know occurred over the period of 2 days.
Is Bill even mentally capable or trustworthy given his mental state right now? Like, how much information are we really supposed to believe? I think he's all right. I don't know. If they leaked the audio recording, would you listen to all of it on stream? Yes. 100%. Bill was in a worse position overall, I think, when Hilary was running. Like in 2016, he looked like he was going crazy. But since then, I've seen other videos of him where he seems to be fine. I don't really know.
Weeks ago, last month, and essentially from what we're hearing from both sources within the Justice Department and here at the White House, 3 senior administration officials told us that what's currently being discussed is whether or not they want to make the audio and the transcripts of that meeting public. Now, we know that they are going through and digitizing some of the audio. We were told by one official that the interviews were more than 10 hours and also going through transcribing it and, of course, redacting parts of it where maybe victims' names who have not been previously made public, trying to redact those if they do ultimately release this information. Now, I think a big question, of course, is we all knew that Blanche went to Florida to have a sit down with Maxwell, one of Epstein's associates who is currently serving a 20-year term for some sex crimes that she was engaged in along with Epstein. And the question was, are you even going to share any of that information? Now we're learning that that is, of course, a big topic of conversation between people here at the White House and the Justice Department. Some of the people we spoke with said that they want to release this information sooner rather than later. They believe that the Trump administration needs to be more in control of the optics of all of.
Nobody is considering Al-Qaeda. Epstein worked for Al-Qaeda and China and Hamas. Yeah. Jeffrey Epstein was actually Russia, China, Al-Qaeda, Iran, and Hamas. Famously. All of them. Definitely not Israel, okay? Do not say Israel, please. Just anybody but Israel is who Jeffrey Epstein was working for, okay? Oh my God, how crazy that this guy who was able to operate inside of American boundaries freely was meeting up with high-ranking intelligence officials from both the CIA and also the Mossad. He was just simply working with the KGB. He was working with Russia, and he was working with Iran, and he was working with, are you sure? Yeah, I'm joking. Whoever they personally consider to be an op at any given moment, you know?
Of this. Others said, they believe that the Epstein story has largely died down right now, and they would prefer not to resurface that at this moment. But all to say, it's a big topic of conversation. We could see some of this information come to light shortly. I would also note that we did hear from White House Communications Director Stephen Chung, who essentially said that he believed that this is nothing more than CNN.
This is a unique situation because, like, I do think I do think Hillary getting into trouble with the Epstein connection is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But also, I want more evidence and I want the truth to come out in terms of, like, who Jeffrey Epstein was connected to, how he was, like, who else he was connected to. And I feel like if they just simply used this as a gift, if they went after Hillary and Hillary alone, it's just like, that's kind of messed up, because on the one hand, I'm like, sick, great, well deserved. But also on the other hand, it's like, well, there's still plenty of other people, we're not packing this up, it's not going away. I also don't really know how this would work as far as, like I said, mutually assured pedophilia destruction.
Trying to desperately to create news out of old news. He was pointing to a Newsmax interview the president did last week, where he essentially said that he would like to release everything, but that we don't want people to get hurt that shouldn't be hurt. He also argued that he hadn't, at this point, this interview was done Friday, that the president argued he hadn't spoken directly with Blanche about this. So all to say, this is new information that we, of course, had not known before. The fact that there is an audio recording of this, and that perhaps the White House is going to release this transcript of everyone kind of staying by to see what ultimately they will do, Pamela.
All right, Elena, thanks so much.
Joining us now, senior legal analyst Ellie Honig. Ellie's a former federal and state prosecutor. What's your reaction, Ellie, to the Justice Department considering releasing of Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's interview that went on for hours and hours with Maxwell?
Well, Wolf, it's significant, first of all, to know that an electronic recording actually exists. That's actually in compliance with DOJ policy that's been in place the last decade or so, that says when you are interviewing a federally incarcerated defendant, you are supposed to electronically record it. And so that means if this comes out, we will have a verbatim record of what was said. We won't have to rely on someone's notes or testimony, which can be fallible at times. The other thing that's really important to note is the decision whether to release this is entirely the Justice Department's. It sits in Pam Bondi's hands. This is not a grand jury testimony, so they don't need to go to a judge. So the decision here whether to put this out is 100% up to Pam Bondi.
How common is it, Ellie, for the U.S. Justice Department to publicly release this type of recording?
It's extremely uncommon, almost unheard of, Wolf. If we're talking about prosecutors going into a prison to speak with somebody who's a defendant, who's a potential witness, potential cooperating witness.
Yeah, I mean, it's bullshit. Is Trump's literal lawyer, man, is Trump's lawyer, who is now the deputy attorney general, is crazy. He's implicated. I don't understand how else you can describe this situation. Like, it's so transparently corrupt that even, like, Trump fans are looking at this and being like, it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
You would never publicize and put out and make and disclose publicly the interview that you had with that person. That would be an investigative file. That would be something you would keep in-house. You would never put it out. But of course, a lot of what we've seen here is happening outside of the normal track.
Well, CNN is learning this morning that the Justice Department has an audio recording and transcript of the interview it conducted with Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the administration has been considering releasing that publicly. What do you think about that? Would you support it?
I would support it. I mean, it was a very unusual interview to begin with. It's very unusual that she's been moved to the prison that she is in. We need transparency right now. Just the lack of transparency, the what appears to be a desire by the White House to hide what is there. Let's just see what it is. I mean, this man was disgusting. He is guilty of horrific crimes. We are forgetting that there are victims that are still recovering, more than 1,000 of them. We need to know what the facts are, and then we need to move on, because quite frankly, not the Democrats, it's the Republicans in the Congress that are keeping business that needs to get done for the people of this country by blocking rules to consider anything.
Well, there are two victims, at least two, who actually wrote the court. And their identities are anonymous right now, but they're concerned that they could be exposed with the release of grand jury testimony, right? They say that this is political warfare and that people are being insensitive to these victims. How can Congress simultaneously push for transparency while also protecting the victims here?
I think the victims have a right to have their names not made public. I think that there have been we know that there's an ability to hide their names, yet talk about what the facts and some of it was. I have, unfortunately, I'm glad that the person felt that they could come forward and talk to me. They're scared to death. They don't want their name to become public or become part of a hate tunnel. You know, people don't understand what happens to people when their name becomes public. People that have...
Especially on this issue, come on. Like, people are already ruthless to victims. There is definitely an environment. There is definitely an environment of protecting abusers. Okay. But outside of that, especially in this case, like beyond the misogyny tourists and whatnot that will go after all the victims just because they hate that shit in general. You know, there are a lot of suspicious deaths surrounding people that have come out against like Epstein or even an affiliate like Kevin Spacey.
Don't know them, they have no facts, just go after them in all kinds of horrific, brutal, bullying, frightening,
Cry me a river. I don't care about these people's reputations. Release a list. No, man, we're talking about the victims, dude. What the We're not talking about like Jeffrey Epstein affiliates. I don't give a shit about Jeffrey Epstein affiliates. I want those names. We all want those names. We're talking about the victims, dog. What is wrong with you, chatter? Calm down.
They've already been victims. They want to move on with their life, and they're scared to death about what is going to happen if their names become public.
So tell us a little bit more about that conversation you had. And, you know, you said they want to move on with their life, and yet, you know, the Democrats and Republicans are calling for more transparency, which will only keep this out there in the headlines.
I think that the calling for transparency is there a list? Is there a list of, you know, here's what happened. Okay, it wasn't Democrats who called for this. As part of his campaign, he said he would make the Jeffrey Epstein list public. The Attorney General stood in front of the White House and said, I have the list on my desk. We will make this public. They said to their mega base, we're going to be transparent. We're going to tell everybody what happened.
Make
but,
England
you know, when
great
you
again.
release a list, it's of the...
Oh my God, mega. Make Epstein great again. That's what does Debbie Dingle know?
Abusers. It isn't of the victims. In this country, we have tried very hard to protect the victims. I'm somebody who works in domestic violence abuse every single day, trying to...
I think the Epstein files, which 1,000% exist, are a distraction, which will be prolonged to make sure more deportations happen, more Israel funding, and more tax exemption for the rich. Congress won't do shit. Release a list of billionaires and politicians who make up the foundation of the U.S. I mean, I agree with you on the second part, but I don't think it's like a distraction per se. And the reason why I don't think it's a distraction is because like the interest in this is real, and a lot of very powerful people, as you also said, are implicated. So you can't say it's a distraction necessarily, because the distraction can't be something that is so important to continuing the empire. And it's certainly not a distraction because like it's something that they're trying to bury anyway. It is a consequential piece of information. It is a very, very consequential operation. If unearthed, if there was like real transparency, which I don't believe there will ever be real transparency, I would be shocked. That would be, I mean, that would shake up the entire system. You're talking about powerful financiers. You're talking about heads of intelligence agencies. You're talking about foreign. You're talking about people, members of the royal family in England, MBS, Saudi Arabia, former prime ministers of Israel. It's just so, the network is so vast for some reason. Maybe because they all love Jeffrey Epstein's vibes, in spite of the full knowledge that he was a pedophilic sex trafficker. Interestingly enough,
help people. They should not ever have their names. They're sexual assault. I've helped some who've been victims of sexual. They're survivors. They don't want to be called victims. Their names should not be made public. It's hard enough for people that just are like that. When you take a case like the Jeffrey Epstein case, which is on the minds of millions of people across this country, there are people that are not kind. There are people that are mean and brutal. There are people from other countries that are trying to stir up more trouble in our country. And those survivors become victims again by the sheer hatred and brutality that people put towards them. Not, some of us have empathy and compassion, but that's not what they feel. They feel the hate that comes at them. And we need to understand that's happening too much in our country, period, on social media.
All right, on the campaign trail, President Trump promised he'd go after those who have investigated him. Now,
do you see this insane video with Cory Booker? Oh, is it with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach? Yes. I'm sure this doesn't have to do anything with kosher sex. Rabbi Kompromat compiler Shmuley Boteach leaking a video of himself wearing a clown costume and drunkenly piggyback riding Cory Booker on Purim in Oxford in 1993. Yeah, Cory Booker has been obviously super, super pro-Israel. But not only that, but he's also besties with Rabbi Shmuley. I had never seen this video, though. I don't think this is compromat, to be fair. It's not like this is on the Washington Post, This is some 4chan shit? Yeah. It has become a liability law. I mean, they've been homies, and he is ass, and so is Cory. I don't know. I don't think this is like, yeah, they've been friends for a very long time. Yes, that's Cory Booker. Cory Booker has been friends with Rabbi Shmuley for years and years and years. I've talked about this on the broadcast. He's also been super pro-Israel for years and years and years. It is precisely the reason why he refuses to. I mean, look, this is the reason why they brought this up is because Senator Cory Booker declines to endorse Zohar Mamdani, saying, New York City, you're about 10 miles from where I live. You guys figure out your elections. I'm going to focus on mine.
Mamdani, are you going to support him? I have learned a long time ago. Let New York politics be New York politics. We got enough challenges in Jersey. I got a governor's race. I'm supporting Mikey Sherrill. I got legislative races. That's where my energy is going to go going into November. New York City, I love you. You're my neighbor. You're about 10 miles from where I live. You guys figure out your elections. I'm going to focus on mine.
July 26, 2021. Mr. Adams is also navigating critical relationships closer to home. He met with Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, over the weekend. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, among others, has also reached out. Yeah. He did. He had no issues. He had no issues pumping Mayor Adams. He had no issues like defending the Eric Adams endorsement after he won the primary by a much smaller margin than Zoran did. This is all about Israel, 100%. And Israel is not even just about Israel. Israel is about democracy. You can look at the Democratic Party's like prominent politicians and the next wave of leadership as putting the interests of American foreign policy, the State Department, or numerous other lobbying efforts, numerous other corporate interests over the interests of the citizens, over the understandable, justifiable, moral demands that the overwhelming majorities of the Democratic Party's base of support is making. Okay? He needs the AIPAC money in general? No, he doesn't. None of these guys need AIPAC money, okay? AIPAC money is consequential. It is important, especially at a time like this. But the AIPAC money is not the most important part of this, okay? It's not the most important part of the puzzle. IG, I guess, not in general. Oh. Yeah. In late recording, Cory Booker says he and AIPAC president text message back and forth like teenagers.
Elections.
Yeah. AIPAC is simply a representation, like is the tip of the iceberg in terms of how pervasive Israeli lobbying efforts are and how pervasive Israeli influence is in American politics. Okay. But I think people hyper focus on it. It's not a bad thing that people hyper focus on it because like it's such a important part of the puzzle, and it's good that people know what AIPAC is. It's good that people are aware of it. It's good that people are mad about it. It's good that like AIPAC has sullied its reputation. Same with the ADL, because these are all different parts of the pervasive influence peddling operation at the behest of the apartheid state doing a genocide. So the more people are aware of them, the more people are repulsed by them, the better it is overall. But it goes beyond that. And a big part of the reason why AIPAC is not a FARA violator, even though it is, right? It's not a foreign agent. It doesn't have to register as a foreign agent, is not because, oh, it's American Jews that are like funding it. What do you mean? It's just the interest of like American citizens who happen to be Jewish, like who, you know, who happen to care about Israel. Like, no, it's Israel's in the name. Okay. The reason, the reason as to why AIPAC is so pervasive in its influence and so successful is not just because it is a well-funded organization or whatever. It's because Israel is in line with American foreign policy. Israel has a special interest, a special designation in American foreign policy as the most important ally in the region. But the more people push back against Israel and the allegiance that we have with Israel, the more difficult it becomes to maintain this this special designation. The more consequential it becomes to continue this allegiance. Okay? Mersheimer contradicts your point of view in his Tucker Carlson interview. He explained that the convergence of interest is limited for the U.S., and it doesn't justify everything regarding U.S. policy in favor of Israel, and that money from the lobbies are the key factor because the U.S. even goes against its own interest for Israel, so not always convergence of interest. I know Mersheimer, I think, fully focuses on the influence of lobbying, but I don't think it's, I'm a centrist. Noam Chomsky says it's all American foreign policy and nothing else. And Mersheimer says it's all AIPAC, it's all different interest groups, like different lobbying efforts. I think it's both. One cannot exist without the other. AIPAC would be registered as a foreign agent if it wasn't for the fact that it is a profoundly important part of American foreign policy. Okay? That's it. Wrong day to bring up Chomsky. I know. And I have the Lollapalooza reacts to Hasan a video on the docket. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.